Why is that? Okay. Anyway, what we're going to do is show how to install this rubber seal onto the quarter window. That's what it should look like. What we got, of course, is the frame, the gasket, and you'll see in a couple areas there's some kind of tricky undercuts. Here where you see the cross hatching, that's kind of a interference fit there. So tools are basically a jerry-rigged knife, which we'll show you in a second, some rags, some dish detergent, and we'll need something to clean it off when we're all done. I would recommend using dish detergent over WD-40 or some oil-based product because this will wash off, whereas the oil can potentially come back, or the WD-40. So first thing we're going to do is coat our rubber. The two toughest areas, well actually this big corner here, these two corners, this isn't that tough, but you have to get that into the corner. This is usually the toughest area to get into properly. So it's all about friction when it comes to rubber. Okay, that's quite a bit of soap, that's for sure. Probably too much. All right, so obviously it just fits in. I want to make sure that you've got the correct gasket for the side. There is a right and a left hand. So typically I start down here at the bottom, get that piece in, and scoot this piece up here. Yeah. You say that's a lot of soap on here. Ouch. You see down in this corner here, that's kind of the tricky part right here, getting that into position. So it's important. Yeah. It's important to get that in, because once everything else is in, it gets kind of tough to move this stuff around. So that will slide in there pretty easily with the help of the soap. In fact, you'll see that it's going to kind of stick up there for a bit. So the hypotenuse is pretty easy. Really no trick to it, and there's not much in the way of an undercut that's standing up there. The vertical piece here, that's where it gets a little tricky. Again, because you have two undercuts. So what you want to do is start on this would be the outside, with the undercut that is just below the lip here. If you can see that. And start at one end. Just kind of get it into position. And then with your handy knife, you're gonna get into this undercut enough, push it back away and in. It's a bit of technique, but it doesn't take long to figure it out. And then push down with your thumb. And of course, you want to push down with enough force to get it to fit. but not so much that you tear the rubber. That would not be good. Don't necessarily have to start at the end, but once you start going, you can kind of feel it clicking in place. I don't think you can hear it on the film, but I can do this without the soap, but it would take a substantially greater amount of force. For those of us with arthritic hands, doesn't really help the situation. This is the easier side, but anyway, this is going pretty good. Now the other advantage that the soap has is once it dries, it actually acts as an adhesive as much as it does a lubricant when it's wet. So something that oil or WD-40 isn't going to do for you. Okay. Once we get into this corner, it gets to be trickier. It's important that this modified knife is blunt, otherwise you will cut it. Okay, just for the sake of full disclosure, it's nothing more than a knife. I broke the end off and then ground down the tip. Make sure there's no burrs on it. Pretty straightforward. Don't know where the knife came from, but now it's handy. So, if you can see via the camera here, that's a pretty good edge. Still looks like we're up a little bit here. I'll work on that later off camera, but that'll do. Now we got to get the other side. So we're going to flip it around. Now the trick with this is that the undercut is actually, notice how this side is low compared to this. See the width difference? Well, the undercut is still down here, so hence the real need for this knife. And I'm not exactly sure where the best place to start is, but I'll kind of take it. Well, maybe we'll start over here. I think it's best to leave it in this position here. You're going to pull this back. Let me pull this out. You can see the undercut here, right there. Okay, so again, the idea is to get in there with the knife, push it back, and up and around the undercut, which is where the undercut on the stainless here. So this is what we're going to try to do. Also, very helpful to have good light, which I don't really have. I'll kind of do it by a braille here a little bit. Now, as I'm pulling this back, I'm also twisting it. And you can see that now it's starting to, once it catches, you can see it pulls itself into position. And the trick is kind of, it's all about technique and feel. And at some point you're going to push with your fingers to get it in position. And if you get into a bit of a rhythm, you can find it, you can feel it starting to click in. Sometimes you don't get it all down the line, which is okay. You can always come back and get after it. Now in this case, I'll start up a little bit ahead and then kind of come back here. And we get down into this corner here again, it's going to be, gets tougher as you get down here. may or may not behave itself. Let's see what we can do here. You get it? It's actually not too bad there. Just come back here. This should be pretty easy now. Famous last words. There she goes. And that is it. Last thing we want to do after we spent buco bucks on polishing the chrome or the stainless, either in money or in hours, is make sure this is all cleaned off nicely. And now, the only other thing is this area here, I've noticed is a little reluctant to stay in the groove. If you remember the cross hatching there, it's supposed to be an interference fit. I suspect we might need to put a little bit of glue, which is no big deal, but probably put a little bit of glue on here and on the other side. But I'm not going to do that while there's soap in there. That's it. And ready to get cleaned up and put on the car.